Hello, my name is Jason Venner, and I'm your host, and welcome to All Access Pass. This is our live television show where every single day we get a chance to interview one of your favorite personalities from the cruise, some of the biggest stars from the rock and roll world, the music world, matter of fact, and today is certainly no exception. One of the original teen idols, all the way back from the 1950s, hailing from South Philly, the one, the only, Bobby Rydell.
How you doing, Jake?
I'm good, Bobby.
Thank you very much.
Bobby Rydell. You know.
Oh my God.
You know. Bobby, it's a shame they don't like you.
I'll tell you, they're absolutely wonderful. They've been fans for, God, close to 60 years. For
60 years in the business.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only 55, but they've been
Yeah, of course. How many Malt Shop Memories Cruises have you done, Bobby?
This is my third one.
Third?
The first one was on another line. It was only a 4-day cruise, and it was so successful that they decided to go to Holland, America.
Yeah, a little bigger cruise.
And now this is my second cruise. I was supposed to do 3. And in 2012, July 9th of 2012, I had a double transplant surgery. And I had a new liver and a new kidney put inside me.
And you're here to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm here to talk about it. That's the reason why I didn't make the cruise. I was a little busy in the OR.
You're excused. You're excused.
But, you know, the funny thing about it, this was July, and I was supposed to do the cruise. I guess it was late October, early November, whatever. Was it October? Yeah. And,
they know your schedule better than you do, Bobby. So
yeah, and as I was being wheeled into the OR, I turned to my wife, I said, I'm gonna make that cruise. I figured I got a 50-50 shot, you know? I'm either gonna die in the OR or I'm gonna come out with a 50-cent percentage, you know? And matter of fact, for those of you who were on the cruise that I was supposed to perform, Holland America took me in, and Time Life took me into Puerto Rico, and I just, Frankie Avalon and Jerry Blavitt called me out, and I guess everybody was happy to see that, oh my God, he is alive. You know? Thank you for your consideration, your kindness, your loyalty, your love. Thank you ever so much.
60 years in the business.
Yeah.
60 years in the business. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your father kind of recognized that you had some talent when you were just a wee one.
Yeah, I was 3 years old, and my father was overseas. This was after the war was over. I was born in 1942, and so 1945, you know, my mom and my dad, they used to write back to one another. And my mom wrote to my dad, you know, the baby's always singing. The baby's always singing. And actually, Jason, we have the letter. I still have the letter that my father wrote back. You really,
How great is that?
And the letter said to my mother, whose name was Jenny, my father said, who knows, Jenny, maybe one day we'll have a star in the family. And that, you know, so if I had any talent within me whatsoever, my father was the first one to see it. He used to bring me around the clubs in Philadelphia when I was 8, 9, maybe 10 years old, you know. And he would ask the club owner, do you mind if my son gets up and sings and does a couple of imitations, you know? And I'm a little guy, you know, and you get up and you sing and you do some imitations and people go like this. I said, boy, all I have to do is do that and they do this? What a wonderful feeling that is.
It's just that easy. Yeah.
But it's all because of my dad. God rest his soul, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're an instrument man too. You're not just a funny guy and a great voice. You're musical.
Oh, well,
Play the drums.
Once again, my dad, I think I was 5 years old. We had a place in Philadelphia called the Earl Theater. Used to bring in the big bands, people like Dorsey, Goodman, Tex Beneke, Artie Shaw, Glenn Miller. And my father took me to a Saturday afternoon performance, and it was the Benny Goodman Band. And who was playing drums for Benny Goodman? Gene Krupa. And I said, I don't know his name, Dad, but I want to be him. I want to be just like that guy. And I started playing drums at 5 years old, took, you know, lessons and all that stuff. And I still have a set, you know, back home, you know.
Do you play often?
I get downstairs and, you know, I'll woodshed a little bit. I used to use it in my act, but the hands don't move that fast anymore. Right? It's kind of tough.
You can play the easy rhythms. So
I could play. I could play some nice, you know, rock. I can play some blues. I can play some jazz. I just can't do solos.
Ah, overrated. You can
Very
sing
hard
those.
to get around the drum set right now.
You can sing the solo. You'll be fine.
I'll sing the solo.
Yeah, there we go.
Boom, bop, boom, boom, pow. Yeah.
I know. Just you can lip sync with your hands. You can just,
Yeah, that's right.
you'll be fine.
I can do that.
So yeah, I know. I didn't know what else to call that. Hand sync? I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
Lip sync with your hands is close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
I understand too that the whole concept for Malt Shop Memories, it started around you. Tell me a little bit about
Well, maybe a lot of you people know, this was about, I don't know, I guess 7 years ago. I was on Home Shopping Network, and I was promoting a thing called, it was a CD set of all of the artists that you know and love, and the artists that are on the, you know, on the cruise, you know, this particular cruise. And it was called Malt Shop Memories. And so from Malt Shop Memories, this is how all this has happened. And as I said to Jason backstage, I said, if I only knew what was going to happen with a couple of CDs that was one of Time Life's biggest sellers, I should have said, anytime you use Malt Shop Memories, I get a percentage. But no.
But alas.
You win some and you lose quite a few.
At least they invite you on the cruises.
Oh, yes. Oh, sure. Well, that's all because of Alan Rubens.
Yeah,
Alan
Alan's
Rubens
fantastic.
was the guy who picked me to do the infomercial. And there was a disc jockey in Philadelphia by the name of Sid Mark, who plays nothing but Mr. Sinatra. He's wonderful. And Al went up to Sid Mark and he said, who do you think, we're doing this rock and roll thing, who do you think would be the spokesman for it? And Sid Mark said, are you kidding? He said, Bobby Rydell. And that's how it happened.
And there you are.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. Now I know, talk about, I don't know what you want to call it, fate. There was a couple of you that grew up within about 17 feet of each other when you were just babies. Tell us a little bit about the neighborhood there and who came out of that neighborhood.
I think, well, most of you all know that the three of us, meaning Frankie, Avalon, Fabian, and myself, were all born in an area called South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Really? All right, don't fool around. Who's got my hubcaps? Come on, don't fool around. And I was born on the 2400 block of South 11th Street, which is now named Bobby Rydell Boulevard. And Fabian was 2500 South 11th, a half a block away from me. And Frankie, Avalon, was on 9th Street, 2 blocks from Fabian and me. And when Fabian and I were kids, we used to throw things at Frankie. Swear to God. We used to throw the kids from 10th Street. We didn't like them kids.
Nobody does. So the three of you obviously started performing together. Tell us a little bit.
Dick Fox, who was my manager, had this idea to put 3, quote, Italian teenage idols together. My real name being Rydell. Or if you say it in American, it's Ridderelli, you know. Frankie, of course, is Avalone, and Fabian is Forte. So he put the 3 of us together back in 1985. And we're still doing it to this day. But when we started in '85, we did it for about a year. And Frankie and I turned to one another. We said, how long is this going to last? A year, 2 years, tops. 30 years, 2000. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that is a perfect segue. Thanks for tuning in to All Access. We'll be back momentarily with more Bobby Rydell. Hey, and welcome back to All Access Pass. Here we are with Bobby Rydell.
You're the best.
I tell you what, they love you.
I'll tell you.
Before the break, we were talking a little bit about you and Frankie and Fabian, and still touring today?
Yes. Matter of fact, after the cruise is over, myself, Frankie, and Fabe will be at a place called the Sands in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And then the next night, we're at the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
How many tour dates are you, like, what's the schedule like these days?
Actually, the three of us, we all do our own thing. You know, Frankie does his own thing, I do my own thing, just like here on the cruise. And when the three of us to get together, I would say out of the year, we do maybe about 6 months of touring with the Golden Boys.
That's a lot.
And it's kind of sporadic, you know, 2 days here, you know, off a week, 3 days someplace else. When we first started the tour, it was like, you know, 45, 50, 60 dates in a row, you know, traveling on a bus. Yeah.
No need for those days.
And I haven't done that since 1959 with the Dick Clark Caravan of Stars. Used
You
to
remember?
Be 26 acts on a bus.
That's either a very big bus or a clown bus. I mean, that's either a very big bus or a
No,
clown
it looked
bus.
like a school bus, for crying out loud. Yeah. I mean, I was so skinny back then. I think I weighed 92 pounds soaking wet. I used to sleep in the rack up above. You know?
You were carried
Where the
on.
hell's Rydell? I don't know. He was here a minute ago. I don't know what happened.
Things may shift. Things may shift in your yeah.
I'll tell you, the first tour I did, it was the Lloyd Price was the headliner, Paul Anka, Annette, and we had the Lloyd Price Orchestra backing all of the acts, the Coasters, the Drifters, the Skyliners, Clyde McFadder, Freddie Boom Boom Cannon. There was like 26 acts on the show.
How, tell me about that show. What did that show look like? I mean, with 26 acts, that's a lot of acts.
Well, 26 acts. How much time do you think I did? You know.
You were just a pretty face.
Well, I don't know about that, you know. Hey, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I think I had 2 songs. My first hit was a song called Kissin' Time, summer of 1959. And I had come out, thank you, with the second record, a record called We Got Love. I did 2 songs and I was done. I was done.
That was it.
That was it.
Did you get a chance to do much comedy or impressions?
No, I did 2 songs.
That was
I
it?
did 2 songs. Matter of fact, you know, we weren't making, you know, no kind of money back then. Freddie Cannon and I roomed together, okay? And we had a guy by the name of Charlie Carpenter, beautiful, beautiful black man who was the tour manager. And he used to say to us, the bus is 8 for 8:30. That means the bus is ready at 8 and it's moving at 8:30. You had better been on that or it goes. So I told Freddie, we're rooming together, I said, whoever wakes up first, don't forget, wake up the other guy.
Did he wake you up? That's the question.
9:30 I wake up. There's no Freddie Cannon. Thank God Paul Anka was in the lobby. He said, Bobby, what are you doing? Weren't you supposed to be on the bus? I said, Freddie got to wake me, Paul. He flew me to the next gig, you know, which was nice, you know. But then I saw Freddie Cannon. I said, didn't I tell you? Whoever wakes up first, wake up the other guy. He said, you look so nice sleeping there. I didn't want to bother you.
He wanted your 2-song slot is what he wanted, yeah. Speaking of comedy and impressions, how did you get into the comedy and impression aspect? I know obviously you're...
When I was home, you know, at a very early age, once again, I used, you know, watching television, and anybody I'd see on television, I would try and mimic.
Who do you love to do? Who started you off on it and where'd you...
Well, the first guy, I think I was about, maybe 8, 9 years old. And Ed McMahon had a show in Philadelphia called 5 Minutes More, went on 5 minutes to 12. And I did an impersonation of this guy who was on the show with me, and his name was Frank Fontaine. Remember? For those of you who remember, the original character was John L.C. Savoni. When he went to the Gleason show, he was Crazy Guggenheim, right? Right. But the original character was John L.C. Savoni, you know. Hi, my name is John L.C. Savoni. Another guy who I worked with a lot of time, and he's, one night I had my tuxedo on and I couldn't find my bow tie, and I went into Mr. Jerry Lewis's dressing room next to me. I said, I can't find my bow tie. I said, do you have an extra one? He says, does it look like this? It was my bow tie. You know? Yeah.
Does it look like this?
Oh, yeah. And then, you know, hey, lady. I think I just hurt myself.
I think you pulled something. You pulled something, but you nailed it.
a very, very, I've had the opportunity, Jason, to work with a lot of great people in this business. My first appearance in Vegas for 2 weeks was with George Burns at the Sahara Hotel, the Jack Benny TV show, and toured with Mr. Benny as well, and then Red Skelton. I did something like 12 shows with Red, and I could never call him Red. It was always Mr. Skelton, until he started calling me Mr. Rydell. So then it became Bobby and Red. And he, of course, he did a character called Clem Kadiddlehopper. So I did that character, and the writers of the show wrote me in. And from what I understand, I was the first entertainer to ever imitate one of Red's characters on live TV. So he was Clem Kadiddlehopper, and I was his cousin Zeke Kadiddlehopper. And basically it was Liz, you know. You thir, boy, you thir, you thir. Oh, you know what I got to tell you? You know, Frankie and I are very close. Really, really close. I mean, we grew up together when we were, I was 10, Frankie was 40, and when...
Sounds about right.
And we were talking about, and Frankie did this, and Frankie also does great impersonations. You got to ask Frankie to do it. Yeah. So we're talking about the greatest story ever told. Remember that? Yeah. Right? And John Wayne is in the movie, and he's one of the Roman soldiers. And at the end of the movie, it's just John Wayne looking up at Jesus Christ. And the director, John Wayne's line was, well, I guess he really is the Son of God. That was his line. And the director says, whoever the director's name was, Frankie will remember, he says, okay, Duke, it's thunder, lightning, action. John Wayne looks up at Christ and he goes, well, I guess he really is the Son of God. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, no matter what John Wayne movie you saw, you know, The Quiet Man, well, it's a good stretch of the legs, you know. How you gonna tell John Wayne to read a line other than, you know, well, I'll tell you.
John, could you soften it up for us?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Out of the voices that you hear today and the folks you see out and about, who, any voices you like to, that you think are unique and you do? The current voices, like, you know, people out today. Do you watch a lot of the?
No.
Yeah, they're boring.
Oh,
Yeah, leave it with me.
God forbid, no. When I'm in the radio, I listen to 50s on 5, 60s on 6. Seriously Sinatra and sports talk radio. That's it.
How do you feel about those? Well, I tell you what, we're going to go to a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you a question about your sports teams. Stay tuned. More with Bobby Rydell in just a moment. All right, thanks for coming back. Here we are once again with the fabulous Bobby Rydell.
Thank you. You're the best. You're all the best.
They love you, man. They love you. I've got to ask, right before we went to break, I was going to touch on your Eagles there. How you feeling about the Eagles?
Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly, score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high, and we'll watch our Eagles fly. So fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
I know that you have, I heard some rumors of a book quite possibly coming out here, a book all about you.
Yeah, matter of fact, I've been working with a gentleman by the name of Alan Slutsky, who is a very, very fine musician. He wrote a book about Motown, and he's a very, really fine writer. And we got together for, a little over a year now to put this book together. And basically, it's a book about my life, you know, from 3 years old up until today. And there's a lot of things in the book that a lot of you fans are really not aware of. It's going to be interesting reading. We don't have a title for it yet, but we're still working on that because you need a strong title and a good picture, so it,
A wild one, they say.
I don't know. I don't know. We were thinking because the reason, if I can just,
Please,
digress just a bit. The reason why I had the liver and the transplant surgery, the liver and the kidney surgery, was because I drank. I drank a hell of a lot, and that was because my first wife, Camille, passed away in 2003 via breast cancer, and I couldn't handle it. We were married for 36 years, and she died, and I just lost it. I lost it, and I started drinking to the point where I'd have bottles of vodka in my golf bag in the trunk. I could never run out of vodka. Matter of fact, when I was drinking Kettle One, and there was a guy who was a Kettle One rep. He says, "You like that?" I said, "I love it." He sent me like 15 bottles.
Way to contribute.
My wife today, Linda, when the bottles came, she emptied every one of them. So
Linda.
So one of the titles, and matter of fact, Frankie Avalon says, "Bobby, I think I got a title for the book." I said, "What's the idea, Frank?" And sometimes I call him Cheech. It's Frank in Italian. And he says, "How about, remember the old Shure ribbon microphones?" I said, yeah. He says, "How about this? The title, a microphone and a bottle." So you see the microphone on the stand with a stool with a bottle and a glass. I said, interesting.
Powerful.
It's yeah. So now I got to give Frank 10% if that's what we come up with.
Not that powerful. Not that powerful.
Yeah.
Not that powerful. What's the proposed release date at this point? Or
We're hoping around the holidays, somewhere around the holidays. Yeah, if we get it all together. If not, by then it'll come out sometime later. And then, of course, hopefully, I'll be doing a lot of, PR for it, just spreading the word around. It's going to be very interesting reading. A lot of things you people don't know.
I have a feeling there's going to be at least this many purchases right away. Amazon is going to blow up. Now, what I like to do in this, if you would be so kind as to allow us to, is we like to break down the fourth wall a little bit in this TV show, and we've allowed our studio audience here to ask a handful of questions.
Absolutely.
And if you'd be so kind, I can't get to them all, as our studio audience knows, but I will get to a few of them.
Sure.
I'd like to start with the most poignant questions first. Ian would like to know, how many times have you toured Australia, and did you see any kangaroos?
Matter of fact, he's in the audience. He's a wonderful man. His name is Ian Allen, and I've worked for him, God knows how many times. And one of my favorite places in the whole wide world is Australia. And I've been down there 23 times in my life since 1960. And the last time I worked there was last year. And so, yes, Ian, and of course I've seen some kangaroos, koala bears, wombats. I've seen them all. It's, I don't know if any of you folks ever had the opportunity to go to Australia. Once in your lifetime, do it.
Gorgeous country.
Oh, fantastic people.
Gorgeous
the food
place.
is wonderful and the climate is great.
Amen.
It's just long to get there.
I've done that flight. It is. Janice from Maryland would like to know, Bobby, do you still keep in touch with Anne Margaret?
Every once in a while I call, and when I call, I have her cell number, and Roger answers the phone. And he says, "Hello." I said, "Hi, Roger, it's Bobby Rydell. Is Ann available?" And I can hear him. He goes, "Ann Margaret." He doesn't call her Ann. "Ann Margaret, phone."
It was in her writer.
It was in
her writer for the band.
I forget, we had to do a question and answer thing. Ann and myself, we went out to California. Well, she was in California. I flew from Philly to California to do this Q&A thing. And we went out to dinner, Ann, myself, prior to the Q&A with one of the producers of the show. And it was the producer, Ann, and me. I said, "Where's Roger?" He said, "He's watching the movie." I said, "He's watching the movie? How many times has he seen Bye Bye Birdie? He's watching the movie." Why, because it went digital and all of it? I mean, he's got to eat sometimes too, And she calls me and she says, "Hello, Mr. Rydell." And I go, "Hello, Miss Olson," Yeah.
Did you have any dance training for Bye Bye Birdie? I mean, you were obviously light on the toes.
Well, I was never a lay-down tap dancer. I couldn't lay down taps, but I was a pretty good mover. And a lady by the name of Anna White was our choreographer. And it took a month to rehearse the Lots of Living number and close to a month to shoot that number. And my arches dropped. I mean, and our choreographer, she broke her leg and was teaching us the Lots of Living number on crutches. Yeah.
Barbara would like to know, what's your favorite all-time song? Not yours. Song that's not yours.
Woof.
What? Narrow it down even.
You know, I'm really, you know, since I was 5, and you know, when my dad took me to see the big bands, I was always a big band lover, and I love the music of the late 30s, 40s. That's really the type of music I really enjoy singing. You know, you take a tune like, it's on one of my albums, we did it with a full orchestra. It's I'm wild again, beguiled again, a simpering, bewitched, bothered, and bewildered. You know, here's that rainy day, you know, funny. But, you know, a favorite? Phew.
What about your
Anything
own?
that Sinatra did is a
Fair
favorite
enough.
of mine, anything.
What about your own?
My own? Well, my walk-on music and my walk-off music is Volare, and that has become my signature song. But a lot of people ask me, if you're a true Bobby Rydell fan, they say, how come you never do I'll Never Dance Again? And that was a great record. It was really a phenomenal record, but I've never had a chart on it. It was a great, really great record. But I would venture to say that Volare, it meant an awful lot to me, you know.
We're nearing the end of the segment, but I got time for a couple more questions here. For fun, if you weren't doing music, what would you be doing?
If I was...
That's from Terry, by the way. Terry wants to know.
Terry, okay. Well, that's kind of tough, Terry. You know, I was really, really happy playing drums. I love the instrument, and that's why I still play today. When I first auditioned for a lot of record companies, I got turned downs, Capitol, Columbia, RCA, you know, and then I finally signed with Cameo in Philadelphia. I had 3 records for them. They all bombed. I said, well, this is really not for me. I was turned down by all of the majors. I come to Philadelphia to record for a local label. I have 3 records, and they won into the toilet. I said, I was really happy playing drums. Other than that, I don't know. Truthfully, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just really happy to be here.
Amen.
Thank you.
And you know what? I think that is a sentiment and a statement we can all echo, and I think we can all appreciate, and I think that's the perfect way to thank you very much for being here with us. Thanks for tuning into All Access Pass.
Thank you,
Jason Better with Bobby Rydell. Have a great night.
Have a great night is right.